Steve here. Welcome back to the channel. So a lot of you have asked me to review the show Heels on Starz, starring Stephen Amell. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. I just watched the season 1 finale yesterday. It came out like 2 weeks ago. So just a quick alert. I'm probably going to talk about mild spoilers in this, but nothing so pivotal that it's going to ruin it for you if you haven't seen it yet. So if you haven't seen it yet and you're still interested to get my thoughts on it, I will try to keep it as spoiler-ish free as I can. But there are a couple points here and there that I might make that might have some spoiler stuff in it, just to let you guys know. So, but yeah, no, a bunch of you were like, hey, I saw Heels, I liked it. I tweeted out about it, and a lot of you people were like, hey, can you do this? I'm waiting for Larson to finish the show so we can talk about it over Going in Raw. But in the meantime, I figured I'd just do a review for it right here at the Wrestlejuice for you. Does that sound good? Cool, right on. Before I get started, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button. Let's help grow Wrestlejuice. So first of all, Heels, what is it? Is it a comedy? Is it a drama? It's got elements of comedy, but clearly it's a drama. You never know what you're going to get when a show like this is announced. I remember watching the first like 15 minutes of Fighting for My Family, that Paige movie that the WWE co-produced. And I remember watching like the first 15 minutes of it on a plane and then turning it off because they did that thing where they don't really want to sort of expose the business, if you will, where they kind of act like wrestling is not predetermined, but then they kind of want to have their cake and eat it too, and think and make us think that it is kind of. So I was glad when I turned this on. It's not sort of overly cheesy, although it does have a fair amount of like soap opera cheesiness to it, and most importantly, it doesn't insult our intelligence when it comes to depicting the life of some wrestling promoters there in the South. The show focuses on the Spade family, Jack and Ace Spade, who run the Duffy Wrestling League down there in the fictional town of Duffy, Georgia. So it's one of the smaller territories, I guess, if you will. Side note, the show seems to take place in kind of an alternate universe where the WWE does exist. Like there is a Vince McMahon. They mentioned Vince McMahon's name by name in an episode. But like there seems to be other national promotions where you can make it big that aren't WWE. So it doesn't really get too much into what like sort of the national wrestling landscape is like. Suffice it to say, it's set in a universe where wrestling promotion in a small fictional town in Georgia can remain solvent, which is actually one of the central conflicts of the show. The fact that this small wrestling promotion is trying to remain alive, and they have like competition, and they're trying to run this place into the ground. So, but the central focus is on these two brothers and their families and trying to run this wrestling league. And the younger brother has a lot of potential and has some interest from promotions up north, I guess supposed to be WWE. And the older brother trying to keep an eye out for his younger brother who's kind of stupid. So the first episode, as with many pilots, a little on the clunky side because they try in the episode to set the scene for people who might not be too familiar with how the behind the scenes stuff works in pro wrestling. I have never really been a wrestling promoter or anything like that, but you can sit down and watch any number of shoot interviews out there or watch any number of documentaries and understand totally exactly how that shit works. This doesn't try to present wrestling in a way that like blurs the line between real or fake. Literally, like one of the first scenes of the show is Stephen Amell's character Jack writing the script for a promo or a match or something. So it presents it the way it really kind of is. But when you're going into a show like this, you just never know. So I was really happy to see that, okay, that's cool. They're paying it its proper respect. that's going to make for more compelling drama. And sure enough, it was all the backstage politic and the shenanigans, et cetera, et cetera. So on that count, it does really, really well. And by the end of the first episode, it ends on a cliffhanger that is actually fairly shocking and entertaining and left me saying, holy shit, I want to see more. And every episode kind of does that. And on that account, it succeeds as well. The story is fairly compelling. Yes, sometimes it dives into soap opera kind of corniness, but it never really crosses a certain line and always stays pretty damn entertaining. The characters are fairly complex. If sometimes one of my complaints is sometimes the characters are a bit overwritten and say things and express thoughts that might seem a little bit out of who their character really is. I'll give you guys an example, and here's a small spoiler. The two main characters in the show, the two brothers, had to survive basically an abusive father who ended up committing suicide on their back porch while they were home. And so that has sort of caused a lot of strife within the family dynamic. And there's a particular scene where Ace, the younger brother, who is not the most cultured guy in the world, is explaining to his nephew the nature of heaven and hell and life and death, et cetera, et cetera. And he is actually really poignant about things and quite philosophical about them. And I just was watching this, I was like, man, this is really out of character here. So every once in a while that'll happen where the writing gets to be a bit too much, I think, for the characters, and the writers themselves are showing out a little bit more than maybe they should. It's a small sort of criticism, but it's something that I did notice. But all in all, I would absolutely recommend this show. I think it's fantastic. I would love to see it go to a season 2. It hasn't been announced yet, but it is wildly entertaining. And the series ended on a note that's sort of like plot-wise got wrapped up in a nice little bow. So you don't need like a season 2, but a lot of the character dynamics are set up so that a season 2 is totally something that can happen. You really want that to happen because you want to keep on seeing where these characters go. And there are some unresolved personal dynamics that would make for an intriguing season 2. So hopefully they do that, and I won't have to write a bootleg fanfic season 2 comic book, which I'll totally do if Heels doesn't get renewed for a second season. So yeah, I really liked it. Was there any other criticism I had of it? Sure. One of them, this is a small criticism because I'm not really against it, but I did notice in the first 6 or 7 episodes, every single episode had like a gratuitous sex scene in it. And I'm not just saying like, oh, it had a sex scene in it. No, it was fairly gratuitous. I feel like Starz, the network, sort of just requires that of their shows. And I'm all for, nudity and sex and stuff. In dramas, I feel like that kind of stuff needs to be used to either advance plot or express like character vulnerability, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas this seemed just more like, hey, we need to have some TNA in this particular episode. Find a place to put it in there. And so you're sitting there like, okay, well, this is probably more than I thought it was going to be. But whatever. Like it's a relatively small complaint. It just seemed out of place. Otherwise, that's kind of it, to be honest with you. Like it's actually a really, really well done show with a little bit of like corny humor, but a little bit of legitimate, actually funny humor. Yeah, I actually really highly recommend that. So yeah, go check out Heels on Starz. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'm sure you guys have a lot of thoughts about it. I didn't really want to dive too much into spoilers. If you've seen it already, how about that finale? Holy crap. The person who eventually ends up holding that DWL championship. Wow. That was kind of crazy. I kind of was wondering if they were going to go down that route, and then they totally did. That was pretty cool. So anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Feel free to put some spoilers in the comments if you feel the need to, if you want to discuss stuff. And if you're watching this and don't want any spoilers, just don't read the comments, and then everybody will be fine. So thanks for watching, everybody. I tell you what, in the next AMA that I do next week, if you guys have any questions about my thoughts on Heels, specific questions, then maybe I'll address them then. Anyways, thanks everybody for tuning in. I appreciate it. Watch one of these other videos here. Is there any other wrestling things that you want me to review? Like wrestling movies? Like The Wrestler? I'll do that. Anyways, talk to you guys later.